Hello, it's the third and final day of the Sim Racing Expo. It's Sunday, and I'm here with André, Eriksen, CEO and founder of Asetek Sim Sports. How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
I'm very good. I'm in my happy place, right?
Yes.
This is a good place to be. It's a good place to spend a weekend. Now, you spent a weekend doing something very similar this time last year. We were just discussing it at the Nürburgring. You have a considerably bigger footprint now, right?
Yeah, you can say that. Last year we were basically traveling down here with 2 samples of our Invicta pedals and some roll-ups. And then we were placed in, it was Phoenix Racing in their actual race shop. We were just showing our stuff there.
Yeah, I remember distinctly going around the expo last year, looking at all the brake pedals, and I remember, and I'm not just saying this because I'm sat here with you, but I remember seeing the Asetek pedals because I remember they looked very different. They looked angry. They were kind of one of the few products that had a bit of style. But I have to admit, at that point, I hadn't heard of Asetek. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was kind of very bespoke brand, maybe like a sim racer in his garage who just kind of made a very cool product. I was very wrong.
Yeah, but how could you not? I mean, it was our first entry into the market, so we are obviously a long-term company and we've been around for long, but yes, for simulator stuff, we have only been here for a year now.
Yeah, but I mean, you've done an incredible amount with that time. I was talking earlier with one of your colleagues about the journey that you've been on, and actually from the expo in November, you didn't actually get a product out until March. So it's only been, 7 months since your first product shipped, and now we're surrounded by a full range of sim racing products.
Yeah, it's been a crazy pace, and a lot of people think it's because we are a big company. But we are not that big, first of all. And secondly, we have a core business to take care of.
Yeah.
So I think we are probably only around 20 people in the sim department. And of the 20 people, okay, I help a lot myself, I have to admit. But of the 20 people, half of them are doing software.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you said that you have to look after your core business. Now, we've spoken before. We did the Sim Sundays podcast, and we kind of spoke about the story. So, small plug. If you want to check out that episode, it's on the Sim Sundays podcast. But I remember you were telling me how you have the Asetek company that does all the cooling systems for gaming PCs, and this is kind of the first new industry that you've explored. Like, just briefly, remind us why sim racing?
Yes, it is a long story, but I have been racing my entire life since I was a kid, from motocross to go-karts to cars, and my son is racing, so that's really what we do. And as a part of our racing, we have used simulators as training tools. I never participated in one single sim race in my entire life, but I've done a lot of sim for training. And we are building an esports academy at Asetek. Someone sponsors a football team, someone sponsors a handball team, but because we are gaming people, we built this esports academy. And I think we had 10 Alienware gaming PCs. Alienware is our biggest OEM customer. And people were doing first shooter games and stuff like that. I'm not really a big Counter-Strike player myself.
Right.
So I was like, okay, why don't we build some sim rigs also? So I bought what I believe was the best at the time, and it was just a horrible experience. Buttons were falling off, connectors were breaking, software issues, hardware issues, and it was almost impossible to have these 5 rigs run at the same time. So then I stopped up, I guess, and said, what is a simulator actually? It's software, it's hardware, and it's mechanics, so mechatronics as it's called. And that is exactly what we do in our core business. So then I was like, wonder if we should try to do this. And I talked to the board. We looked at, I think, 100 different companies. Are there someone we want to buy? Is there someone we want to merge with? Is there someone we could learn? And what we don't do is, at ADAC, we don't copy others.
Yeah.
And that's also, I'm glad you acknowledged that with our pedals, that you can see they look different from anything else.
They definitely stand out.
Yes. And we literally start with a clean sheet of paper on our brakes, our pedals, our software, wheelbases, everything. It's just made from a white piece of paper.
I get the sense that you're most proud of the pedals. We were talking earlier about the range, and you said that you appreciate the comments mostly about the pedals. It seems like there's maybe a bit of sentimental value there because it's the first product.
No, I think it's also, our wheelbases. We haven't sold one yet because we don't have anything else than what you see here at the show.
Yeah.
So now we have some mileage under our feet. We've sold thousands of the pedals, and we just get so much great feedback from these pedals. You won't believe it. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, our sim racing team have been around. They used a different set of pedals for the race, and they were less impressed. And they came around and they tried out all the different manufacturers around the hall. And again, I'm not just saying this. I'm sat here, but they were blown away by the Asetek range. The wheel rims and the compatibility that the bases have with the other wheels, and the pedals. They like how hard the brake pedal is compared to others.
And that's our approach to this is a little bit different than most, I guess, because we are racers, and that is what I vouched to do when I went in, and I said, it has to feel like a race car. If people don't like it, then buy something else. And that's pretty hardcore statement, right? And a big risk. But that was the risk I took, or we took. And what's great now is that sim racers are really loving our pedals. Okay, some of them are putting in a little bit softer elastomer.
Yeah.
But they're still hard. But, there are so many real race car drivers also contacting us, weekly right now. Where can we get a set of your pedals? Can we try them out, etc.? And it's really because they mimic a race car so well. So I think we have gotten a really good foothold among real racers as well as sim racers.
And do you think it's that important to be so similar to motorsport? Because we're catering to gamers first and foremost, perhaps. Sim racing kind of straddles the line between gaming and esports and motorsports a little bit. Do you think it's really important to be true simulation to real-world motorsport?
For me, yes. Yeah. And the reason is that why would you spend 10,000 euros on a rig simulating a car if it feels like a boat? What's the point? Where I do acknowledge that if you are a sim racer and you're out here to win sim races, that there can be things that, can be different from a real car because it's not a real car.
Yeah.
But in general terms, the most feedback we get on our pedals, both the Fortes and the Invicta, is, our consistency has just been so much greater. But if you think about it, what is consistency? Well, that's what will make you win races.
Right.
It's important to qualify good in any race, of course, and you can be fast over a lap with any pedal if you want to. But to get the brake consistency, brake at the same spot, brake with the same consistency. If a soft and long brake pedal was the fastest, guess what? It would have been like that in race cars 30 years ago. It's not really rocket science.
Yeah, there's no need to reinvent the wheel, to excuse the pun.
Exactly.
Okay, so something I noticed when I walked around your booth versus some of the other booths is that your marketing materials, like the images that you have out on the stands, they seem to really focus on the collaboration that you have with other brands. Walking around the hall, meeting these other brands, how important is it, do you think, for a brand such as Asetek to work with other manufacturers?
I think it's the key to the success, and I think my competitors will realize that. Hopefully too late, of course.
We'll cut that out.
No, but what I mean by it is, of course we are a new brand, but it has actually nothing to do with that. But if you think about it, how many ecosystems are there out now, combinations of wheelbases and wheels, where people, they copy each other's quick releases, and then they change one small thing so they're not compatible with each other.
Yeah.
The only thing you do, in my view, is you piss off, my friends, you piss off the end user.
Yeah.
You go out as a happy customer, you buy a 1,000 euro steering wheel, then you come home, now it will not fit this wheelbase or that wheelbase. So we are trying to make up with all that, and therefore we have reached out to, I would not say all, but pretty much all steering wheel manufacturers at the market, and as you point out, you can see them here at our rig.
It's a pretty beautiful display with some pretty varied wheel rims that you've got on there, and it's kind of cool to see, the Asetek wheelbase, but then lots of other brand names all in your stall, in your area at the expo.
Yeah, and that's because when I let a competitor sell a steering wheel, I don't see that as a lost sale for me on a wheel. I see it first and foremost as a happy end customer that can choose the wheel he wants or choose the wheel he already bought. And then for sure I sell a wheelbase. Yeah. So I don't really see there are any losers in this.
No, 100%. I completely agree. And just on like a perhaps a more personal note. We're here at the expo, and yesterday it was really, really busy, rammed. There were thousands of people walking through, trying stuff. How does it feel when you see this many people walking around your space, looking at the products, being like, as a founder of a company, you are Asetek, right?
Yeah,
How does that feel when you see that? Did you ever take a moment and be like, oh, this is cool?
I would say perhaps between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the night if I don't sleep. But, I've been so busy running around. But I have to credit my team, and, our stand here is amazing.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive.
You know me now. By now, I don't like to brag, but I'm also confident, and I'm confident when I say I think we have the greatest display of all here. And, this was not a penis measuring contest where we deliberately went in here and said, hey, we want to beat everyone else.
Yeah.
We planned for a good size stand. We had no idea whether we would be the biggest or the second biggest. That was not the point, but it looks really great.
And you used the blank piece of paper method for everything you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to bring a race car, we wanted to make a stage, we wanted to have a party one night, and we wanted to display the different wheel manufacturers, and then it's like, okay, we are roughly going to need this size.
So what about next year? What if you could make a prediction, how do you think this event is going to feel different next year? Are you going to see more manufacturers or an emerging technology, perhaps mixed reality? What are you predicting for the future?
I could actually be a little bit nervous about this show because we came here, we left Denmark in our case Tuesday morning at 6. We are probably, rough estimate, between 25 and 30 people down here. It's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And of course it's been great being here. We've done a lot of business and met a lot of end users, but it was actually only yesterday there was crowded here. And of course we need to, on our side, really think about, is it worth the investment? I have unintentionally become famous on YouTube. And what I mean by that is we have made these product videos, of course for the first time, for the fun of it, but we figured out they work pretty good, so therefore I continue doing it.
You're talking about the fluffy pedal covers, yeah?
No, I'm not that, but I'm talking about my it looks like these mic covers, actually a rabbit version. The product videos where I introduce our products. And if you look at it from a pure cost benefit perspective, making a video for me like this, it takes me an hour.
Yeah.
It costs no money. We get as a company probably 20,000 viewers. So if I then compare this to this, it's so I hope let's put it like that. Perhaps it's more interesting to discuss what could change it.
Yeah.
And I really believe that in this case, sim racers, they need to get out there.
Yes.
When you have a show like this in Europe, you should really support it.
I couldn't think of a more tactile esport or a tactile game than sim racing. There's no other game that you feel as much as you feel sim racing, and so it is important that we have more events like this. And they don't have to be these huge headline events once a year. They could be multiple throughout the year where we just get the rigs out and have some kind of competition, but it means that people who are interested in getting into it can come and feel it, because you don't experience it. But I mean, the videos are great, right? But you don't really experience the sensation of losing the back end through watching a video, right?
And that's obviously the difference. If we, in my example, if I make a video and, hey guys, I'm introducing this new steering wheel, then people can see a wheel and that's it.
Yeah.
Here they can try it.
Yeah.
But it just have to be balanced. It does not make sense. We spend, I don't know, €500,000 or whatever. It could also be 100,000 euros. I don't know the cost.
Yeah.
But it's a significant cost, and it's also a significant opportunity cost, because these 25 people I've had here for a week, they could have been in Denmark doing something else. So I like to support this. You also see this. It's a big statement for us here. So we like to support it.
Yeah.
But we also like people to come out then.
Yeah. I mean, one doesn't work without the other.
Exactly.
Right. No, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. It's good to kind of dive in. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss or kind of highlight before we finish?
Yeah, perhaps just a small thing. We released a lot of new products, of course, and people can see them on all other occasions. But I think one thing that plays into this steering wheel partner thing.
Yes.
There are actually customers who already own a steering wheel that, for example, let's say Cube Controls. They have a Cube Control steering wheel, and they of course would like our new wheelbase. Then they don't buy a new cube control steering wheel, of course. So we are actually making an end-user version of the quick release, where it will mechanically fit on many different steering wheels, and it will obviously fit on our wheelbase, but then there will be a USB-A connection in the bottom. So you can get rid of your cable on your cabled steering wheel and still support our wheelbases.
I feel like that's a move for sim racers, right? That's very much like, look, we want to do something, we want to make life a little bit easier for you.
Exactly.
And actually, since you've offered us a little bit more time here, let's talk about the ABS brake pedal.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty cool. Like, you know, we had the SimiCube pedal came out, and a lot of people have been talking about that. But actually, what you've done with the ABS pedal, it's almost not simulation in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it is not simulation because it is a real ABS brake system. There's the manifold, there's the magnetic valves, etc. So there's no really point to discuss whether it feels real or not. It is real.
Yeah, that should be quite refreshing. The idea of somebody who's never driven a GT3 car, probably sitting in one of it, doesn't feel realistic. And you're like, how do you really know? If somebody now uses one of these pedals, so that doesn't feel anything like ABS, you're like, well, it does.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not. I mean, we can debate it, but there's no point in debating it because it is from a real car. And the idea here is, well, that's something we have not discussed. This is these upgradability options we have. So even if you buy our Prima pedals, the cheapest pedals we make, when we come out with that ABS system, you buy it as an upgrade kit and off you go. No reason to throw hardware away or sell it with a huge loss. You can just upgrade. And that we are, these upgrade pads, we offer them on the pedals, on the steering wheels, and on the wheelbases.
Yeah, and we were discussing that earlier, the idea that you can upgrade a wheel. So if you have the Prima, you could upgrade to the Forte, and and I'm assuming the idea is that you send it back and it gets upgraded, or you get sent a kit. It's not clear exactly how it's going to work.
And I'm glad you asked that question because the reason, because some people think, why have they not figured out that yet?
Yeah.
The reason is I come from the PC world. People are changing motherboards, CPUs,
warranties.
memory modules. No, but what I'm getting at is for the tinkerers, that's easy.
Oh, okay,
So for the people of our customers that are tinkerers, they could do everything themselves.
I like the idea of having a tinkerer package.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I also know of people who would not be comfortable. So that's where perhaps would make more sense. But the wheelbase, you remove 4 screws, I think. Then you remove another 4 screws. Then you have the motherboard of the wheelbase in your hand, take off 3 or 4 connectors, put them on, screw the 8 screws in, and you're done.
Yeah.
So doing a video about that, I think, will be pretty easy also. But that's something we need to, we have a community council, and then, we're going to send some hardware to some end users, and then we'll get feedback, and then we decide.
Well, it's interesting. Well, my first thoughts are that people who build sim rigs are very proud of their sim rigs, and I think a reason they're proud of it is because sometimes they can take a long time to build. I won't mention the brand, but we have one in the office that took a long time, like a whole day, 7 hours it took to build. And then when it's done, you're like, wow, it looks incredible. You're very proud of it. It's like, it feels, I built this. This is great, and I kind of set it up the way I wanted to. I ignored that instruction in the manual, and this sort of stuff. So I suppose if you start getting your users to start getting into the nitty-gritty of the wheel, they're going to start feeling a bit more like it's, this is my wheel, but I upgrade it. In the same way as like, you're a car guy. I bet when you were a kid, you bought your first car, you added stuff to it. You even like changing the radio and then, changing stuff at the end. Like you upgrade your car and then you feel more attached to it. Is there a similar idea behind this?
No, not really. It's, let's say that's a bonus benefit.
Yeah.
The thinking was really, again, okay, I have this budget, I buy, and I'm just making up a number, I buy the La Prima kit, 1,349 euros or dollars. Then you figure out later on, it would actually be great to check out this hydraulic cylinder. Then instead of, taking a huge loss on what you already bought, then you can just buy the upgrade. And needless to say, of course, it's more expensive to upgrade. That's, But the idea is you can do it as you can afford it, and you can do it as the pace you want.
You can iterate upon it.
Yes.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. It was one of those things when we were discussing it earlier that I thought, why has no one else done this before? It kind of seems obvious, but I suppose perhaps the reason that people haven't done it is because of the challenges you were discussing earlier, right? In terms of like, what's the logistics behind being able to upgrade it, or are there any compromises in developing a wheel that has to be ready for upgrade as opposed to a completely custom one?
I think it's also about, we come from the gaming side of things with huge volumes. We make more than 1 million liquid coolers a year. And because we have different OEM customers, a lot of the insides of our liquid cooling is of course the same, but we have different ID, so industrial design for different customers, so they have their own products.
Yeah.
So we have this, line of thinking. When we designed our pedals, for example, for the first time, the pedal plate, there are a lot of, if you go home on your rig now and look, there are a lot of extra holes, and now you know why they are there. That's because we can bolt on ABS. We can, we made this platform thinking when we had our clean sheet of paper.
Yeah.
When we did our steering wheels, we took it into account, and our steering wheels are injection molded, and that's a huge upfront investment in the tool. It's really a big investment, but that means that when you paid for that shelf and the tool once, then it's easy for the end user to upgrade, and we can price differentiating between what's in the wheel and what's not in the wheel.
That's very interesting.
Whereas a lot of our competitors, or you could also call it customers, if we look down here, they are doing CNC manufacturing.
So every wheel could be a completely different chassis of wheel.
Yeah,
almost.
but also if you CNC manufacture a wheel, a CNC machine costs the same in Denmark as it does in China. The aluminum costs the same, anodization costs more or less the same. So you cannot really make a cheap wheel or a low price wheel. They will all cost the same. I mean, I'm saying more or less here.
Yeah.
So it has definitely also something to do with the manufacturing methodology.
Yeah, 100%. And it's kind of interesting to see how the Asetek's past is kind of giving direction to its future and how that's being applied to sim racing. It's quite clearly a lot of the lessons that you learned from the first 15 years of the company, that DNA is coming through now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not something we can erase. That's who we are.
No, and is there, do you have people on the sim racing manufacturing side now who have come from the liquid cooling side of the company before?
Absolutely. We mix and match people all the time.
Have you converted them to sim racers?
Yeah, we have a lot of people now doing it in the company, and my racing passion have always shone through. And but the fact that we are gamers, you can also see that we have the LED stripes on all our stuff, and some people are, that's not a gimmick. So no, it's not, because, for example, on the wheelbase, we are going to, in the future, make the flag LEDs, so if you have a full course yellow, the wheelbase will light up yellow, and when it's green, it will light up green. God.
So what you're saying is that the back wall of our office is going to be continually blue, right?
Yes, exactly. You do know what the blue flag means?
I think it just means kind of like defend harder, is it?
No, it means there's a race going on and you're not a part of it.
That's brutal.
But that's what I was told when I started to race.
It's very
go-kart.
savage.
In go-kart, it's actually sometimes when you get the blue flag, it's out. You're no longer a part of the race.
Wow.
So it can be pretty...
It's almost like qualifying never ends.
Exactly. But just to get back to the LEDs, you can see it's implemented there. You can see now when he's on the throttle, you can see the green light, and then when he's on the brake, you can see it lit up red. And then it's like, why is that cool? Well, it's actually cool because it graduates. So from a driving coaching perspective, you can actually stand next to him now and see, is he two-pedaling? How hard does he go on the throttle? Because it starts light green and then becomes darker green. So although it's cool to look at, you can actually learn a lot from it just from watching a driver.
I mean, that is very cool. And I've heard rumblings that there's some kind of esports and coaching performance tools that you want to embed into your wheels, right?
Yes. But I don't want to talk too much about it.
Well, I'm very excited about it. It sounds very cool. André, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for going on time. I know you're very busy. It's been great chatting. And we'll see you again.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks.
Take care, guys.